So, I just got done playing the Gorit Demo, a new indie Mons game brought to my attention by the game's dev himself over on Twitter, @SearchThe7. Go hit him up, he's awesome and he knows what's up when it comes to pineapple on pizza. Yes, he asked me to do this literal months ago, but hey, the summer's been hard on us Tomodachi bros, and now my buddy Gym Leader Ed is telling me that Mons month is now in July. Wait, who the heck decided this? May is the perfect Mons month, because not only is it perfect for me in particular, but it gave it that all-around added alliterative appeal. But okay, fine, let's do this your way. And consider this an extension of my amazing Mons month block anyway, because I see a lot of potential in Gorit in the demo thus far, which currently extends one level in length. Which, if you know what you're doing, aka you don't suck at games like I do, you'll clear it somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. So join me for a closer look at the Gorit Demo. Greetings everyone, and welcome to the highly unusual bit of N-D-X, where I will actually be talking about my hands-on playthrough with a demo of a game that isn't due to be released for a while yet. So everything I say in this review could easily become untrue in a single patch's time, so just keep in mind that every sentence in this review needs to be appended with the all-important asterisk of "at the time of this writing." Cool? Cool. Gorit is a brand new demo, but the listing is already on Steam for those who want to wishlist it, and Search the 7 also has a YouTube, link below, with periodic updates on the project. So to do this right, let's do a first impression based on my separate runs of the game to give a more authentic experience before I sit down and just go over the bullet points. Run 1 has me starting the game and checking the options, which amounts to volume options and nothing else as of yet. So my recording dimensions are either full screen or full screen, but with an ugly white bar up top, so I opt to record in full screen. I then check the Gorit tab on the menu and meet my partner for this venture, the little red cat fox creature whose portrait is a pleasantly drawn rendition of the creature, but his polys make it look like he's seen some seriously bad stuff in his day, and being that he has the grave misfortune of being piloted by someone as bad at games as me, he has every right to be that state of mind. There's two other entries, but both are clouded by question marks, so I embark on the adventure proper. At first I try the wasp mouse movement and accomplish absolutely nothing but embarrassing myself and my Gorit partner, who I took to calling Hank because I wanted to call it something and I was feeling terminally uncreative that day. So swapping to my regular PC controller, a 360 controller, saved the day and made the controls feel much more intuitive. You can use either the face buttons or the triggers, whichever suits your fancy, for the two moves that Hank has to his name: a fireball that travels a distance in a straight line before fizzling out, and a poison ball that he lobs in the air with a slight arc that deals damage over time. The control stick moves your Gorit around, and the camera chooses its position relative to where you are in the dungeon. Keep this in mind, it's going to become important soon. After being introduced to some door puzzles by way of lighting lanterns, I engage in my first combat segment, whereupon I am mercilessly brutalized and forced to flee toward the one health pickup in sight, which mercifully heals to 100%. Then I defeat the crystal turtle monster who chased after me. I attempt to parse the next torch puzzle unsuccessfully, wondering why Hank's fireballs aren't causing this particular lantern to trigger this time. I double back to make sure I hadn't missed anything, only to find the other turtle waiting for me, but thankfully I deal with him in short order and the puzzle resumes working. Turns out if you're not an unobservant moron, it all tends to work itself out. So I proceed with parsing the nature of the torch and bridge puzzles awaiting me, noting that there's no real feedback to these things, but then I get engaged by a level 4 turtle who summarily kills Hank and brings my first run to its end. I also notice that nothing can help you at this point, outside of Alt F4ing the game and restarting it from the launcher. It has no option to restart or close the game upon dying, and none of my button inputs would call up any sort of menu or options. Run 2 opens with a little more expediency, as I know the opening puzzle and tend to be a little more conservative in my fighting style, waiting for the enemies to launch their attacks and enter their cooldowns before I launch my own. Here, I notice there is some jank in the controls, being that there is a tangible delay between my pressing the button and the attack actually executing. This results in embarrassing moments where I aim a shot towards an enemy, then turn to resume dodging, only for the fireball to be fired in completely the wrong direction. Hank II is off to a poor start in that respect, but handles the first turtles, including the dastardly level 4 one that prematurely sunk his predecessor's attempt with aplomb. However, I struggle with the next leg of the puzzles and somehow even manage to desync the camera, forcing it to careen helplessly through the left-hand wall, showing me the contents of a room I found no actual means of entering in my time with the demo. eventually running all the way back to the start of the dungeon and then hanging to the right as I returned back to the puzzle in question somehow corrected the issue. After entirely too long of messing with it, eventually I put it together that the torches don't stay lit when fired upon, and that hitting them again reverses their effect, and that sometimes the order of operations is more important than their on-off positions as if they were switches. However, due to some sloppy dodging, I enter the next room with 1 HP, and the first enemy I meet, another batch of turtles, kills Hank the second as well. Turns out there's no mercy invincibility, and if two enemies are stacked together and both fire their attacks, you don't just get hit the one time. So that's good to know. Hank the third enters the world with gusto, with benefit of the knowledge his ancestry bestowed upon him and his tamer. I eventually get to the third part of the dungeon, a complex puzzle where certain switches move the bridges between the islands, and some others move the islands themselves, changing which switches you have access to at any given time. I must say I really liked this puzzle. This one in particular forced me to slow down and really think about what it was I was doing in order to progress, and it was here I noticed the switches were marked with very large, very obvious, and very glowing runes on the floors before them that would have greatly eased the burden of parsing the last few rooms' mechanics had I just stopped to look at them and recognize the very simple bout of cause and effect at play. My only gripe with this puzzle in particular is that when you hit a switch, the camera will zoom out and actually gives a much better view of the puzzle in question, and would probably have made it easier to complete if it just stayed zoomed out. Moving back in really made it a little tougher, as I still had to parse which parts I was trying to rotate and when. I also noticed the area to the left of this puzzle has a wall clipping issue that makes it look like there's a path that continues to the left there that actually doesn't. Equally strange, I noticed across all three runs that my Gorit would try to surmount any slope it came across, even if it was supposed to be a sheer wall. While I couldn't find any exploits using this trick, I'd advise the dev to keep it in mind as he continues developing the level designs. Anyway, that aside, solving the puzzle opened the door to a room positively rotten with crystal turtles and a strange yellow baseball bat looking creature who all proceeded to mindlessly rush me. I kited them around the room while bombarding them with poison, since poison splashes over an area of effect and thus tends to be much better for crowd control than individual fireballs. The baseball bat creature didn't really behave any differently than the turtle, so I'm unsure if it was supposed to be a boss creature or simply foreshadowing of another Gorit species for later in the game. At this point, I am much more used to the timing the game uses to launch its attacks, so I'm able to poison, run, until the room is cleared out, whereupon the game congratulated me and took me to a link for the post-demo survey. I then filled it out and wrote this script, bringing us to the bullet point part of the review. Graphically, the game is quite nice. It has a soft, round anime style and its character designs that make the Gorit creatures quite endearing. I hope this influences the dungeon design as the game goes on, as the Soul Cave level is a bit bleak and dark. The only change up in coloration tended to be the strange pink sludge dividing up the terrain. But I like the overall presentation, just at the colorful title and critters, I wasn't expecting the demo stage to look like something out of Deep Rock Galactic in terms of its lighting. And musically, sorry, this one's just gotta be a huge whiff for me. The title screen comes at me with this, I want to say, xylophone melody, and I can barely call it that. I just really did not like it. The dungeon music was much more tolerable, but really nothing spectacular. The sound effects were good, though, and I did like those. So I hope the audio gets a little more love moving into the future. Heck, I know some sound guys if you're curious. Anyhow, gameplay-wise, I have a hard time describing the game's feel, except to compare it to another game and hope that enough people have played it to get what I mean when I say it. It all felt like I was playing the dungeon segments in Monster Rancher Evo. Okay, that's an incredibly strange thing to say, but I just felt like the three generations of Hank all moved just a hair too fast, and the camera was just a bit too slow and stilted, and the delay between input and attack resolution was somewhere between unwelcome and outright maddening. The puzzles felt intuitive enough. I just wish that upon activating one of the torches, the camera might be best to pan to the place where the end result actually occurred, as many force you across the entire cave east to west and back again for you to resolve the puzzle and then see the fruits of your labor. The combat is both too slow, the delays between attacks coupled with the aforementioned delay issues to begin with, and simultaneously too fast, with enemies rushing headlong at me with kamikaze levels of disregard for life and limb. Thankfully, the level is large enough for kiting strategies to work, but the experience gain was only enough for my Gorit to level up just one time, from 2 to 3, and by the end you're facing off level 10 monsters. But I understand that this is a demo and an early build with plenty of time for any of these issues to be rectified. Here's the thing. It's not that the game lacks potential, it oozes with the stuff. And most of what I'm complaining about are all incredibly easy to fix. I imagine most of it will just by matter of course, like with level design and variations as the game gets deeper into production. With a little tighter and more responsive controls, even the simple mechanics we see on display here could lead to an incredibly satisfying gameplay experience. As I said, I liked the puzzles once I stopped being a moron and learned from their design. I'm super excited for what Gorit will eventually become, and really all it needs is polish. The elements are already there. Even the monster named Crystal Shards you collect from fallen monsters implies interesting mechanics for generating new Gorit creatures, and I can imagine the shooter-style gameplay would lend itself well to a hypothetical co-op mode, for instance. I'm just spitballing at this point, but the point I'm trying to make is that Gorit has the foundations to be fantastic. The only thing I legitimately did not like was the title screen music, and once again, that's an easy fix. As for wishlist items, I just want more, and maybe a chance to enter a name for my Gorit once I begin play. Hank IV has quite a legacy to live up to when that time comes. But all that being said, I know it's going to be great, and I eagerly look forward to everything it's going to be when it does release. And as a personal aside, I do hope that Search the Seven understands that I'm being somewhat nitpicky for the sake of this review. I want the game to be great, so I just wanted to bring everything to light as quickly as possible with a little bit of humor and irreverence dashed in. But I mean well, and I hope that the project continues to grow, and I'm happy to continue being a beta tester if requested to be so. But for now, the sign-off. This has been the Demo Snek, reviewing our first demo title for this bit of N-D-X-Cellence. What did you think of the preview? Want to try it for yourselves? Link, as always, in the description below. Tap the like button if you liked today's episode, and leave a comment on what your thoughts of this demo thus far are. I'd be curious to hear what your wishlist items are too. And for more content like this each week, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a one. And join me here each week for more obscure reviews, N-D-X, Snek talks, and more. And I will see you there.